Okay, good afternoon and good evening, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Welcome once again to Tekedia Capital Open. My name is Ndubuisi, Ekekwe. I'm speaking today from United States. I just want to welcome you for coming here to spend the next few minutes. Hopefully in the next 60 minutes we'll be done. Just before we get started, please just confirm that my voice is audible so that we can just take it to the next level. Thank you.
Very audible, sir.
Okay, great. So welcome, gentlemen, as I speak, and just mute yourself. As soon as I finish, we'll have a section for question and answer. So what we are coming here to discuss is largely to look at the mechanics of markets and also see how the empires of the future are going to be built on technology. So over the next few minutes, I will make a presentation on how that redesign is happening in our time and in our generation, and possibly how we can all participate in this Cambrian moment of entrepreneurial capitalism. So I begin by taking you back to what every one of us, we know about it. You know, look at the world map. Look at this map, you see there are so many paralyses, there's so many frictions. Issues of insecurity, problems of lack of clean water, inadequacy in electricity, and just so many problems that we can keep naming and listing that are happening around the world, from Ukraine to Russia to Nigeria to Gabon, to United States, America, and beyond. We can see that the world has challenges, the world has frictions, and there are so many of them that are coming up every day. But also, as you look at this map, you can also think something that is not just about problem of vision. You can also see that the world has a lot of abundance. Talking about abundance, talking about that opportunities exist in these markets, and people, innovators, builders, creators, people that understand how to bring together factors of production, they're also unlocking massive level of opportunity in this space. So the world has frictions. The world also has abundance. You know, there is a gentleman in Nigeria. He is the CEO of Bua Cement and Bua Foods. If you look at his network over the last few years, you realize that the CEO of Bua Cement, this man has just figured out how to actually create value in Nigeria. So what I'm saying here, that in as much as the nation appears to be in a state of flux, people that understand how to create value, they are also building value. Then you go to United States, people say, hey, the stock market is unraveling, yet people are minting value. So the world of frictions is also the world of abundance. And what that means is we have to now figure out how we're going to reposition ourselves so that as our redesign happens, we can be among those that are, besides seeing those problems, we can also be looking at how we can face the problems and capture that abundance. In our continent, Africa, we have seen a redesign, a trajectory, a momentous trajectory that we can see over the last few decades. A hopeless continent became Africa rising, and then aspiring Africa to now a continent where practically every person wants to come to participate, because the world knows that the best opportunities in the world, untapped, latent, most of them are actually concentrated in Africa. And that means that people that figure out how to unlock these opportunities are going to be those that are winning the empires of the future. Because, I mean, people have solved the problem of lack of electricity more than 100 years ago. People have solved the problem of lack of clean water more than 100 years ago. But these are still issues that even in the next election in Nigeria coming up next month, people are still giving 24/7 electricity as something that is like a rocket science. But if you go to New York City, you go to Sweden, you go to Norway, you go to London, and tell someone, hey, listen, I'm promising you 24/7 electricity. He said, what are you talking about? We don't need to talk about that because we have taken care of that 100 years ago. So that means that there are still massive, untapped, latent opportunities in Africa, and those opportunities are still locked up there. Someone has to go and then open them up. And that is what is happening that we have seen new species of companies, innovators. They are building that Canberra moment of entrepreneurial capitalism, where they are not just talking about these problems, but they are also going to fix those problems. As they are fixing those problems, they are now building gigantic companies that we call them unicorns. Unicorns are companies, mainly new technology companies like that are worth at least $1 billion. You have companies like Florawave, Obey, Wave, Fori, Pamdela, Esusu, Cheaper Cash, InterSwitch, Moneyport. These are some examples of these companies, and they are being farmed by innovators every year. So we can see that a company like Florida, using it as a case study here, is worth at least $4 billion based on the latest information we have publicly. What that means is that it is the largest financial institution in Nigeria, using Nigeria as a case study. The largest bank in Nigeria today is Zenith Bank. Zenith is not even up to $1.5 billion using the market data that we have in the Nigeria Stock Exchange. Then you now look at InterSwitch, look at Andela. These are all new companies, some of them largely less than 10 years old. And as you are looking at this level one, there are many dozens of them that are the level two. Look at Twiga, look at Kuda, look at Touch and Pay, look at Konga, they are all rising. So if you look at the world we live today, you can see that this trajectory has been consistent. Frictions in markets are being tackled, being fixed, and innovators are creating very great companies because they're actually solving problems in societies. And I do project that by end of December this year, specifically in Africa, we are going to have about 15 unicorns. That means that we're going to have about 15 companies that are now worth at least $1 billion. You may say it's not a lot, but remember, just a decade ago, we didn't even have any. That means that something good is happening. And that means that the process of entrepreneurial capitalism that we are now seeing it in real action in the continent. But it's understanding that just not talking about unicorn, there is also something that has to be done. And what has to be done is that we are going to have missions. We are going to have companies that have purpose, that they have opportunities in the market that they want to solve. Markets are critical. The companies that have missions become very, very important. You may have the person who is the consumer. He wants to buy from the producer. You may also have the producer who wants to sell to the consumer. But because of the naturally perfect system of market system, these two people cannot come into a perfect equilibrium point. And because they cannot come into a perfect equilibrium point, the implication is that transactions cannot take place. And when transactions cannot take place, businesses cannot those things that happen in businesses cannot happen. And there is only one way in human history that has made it possible that this demand and supply can come into a fairly decent, optimal transaction point so that they can now exchange goods and services, exact monetary value, so that at the end of the day, everyone goes home happy. And that process is by starting and establishing companies. When we establish companies, we fix frictions in markets. Because market itself is imperfect. The only way we try to improve the market system is by starting companies. I'd like to give this example just to illustrate that it's not just having the production system that matters. It's also having the mechanism that through companies, we can now make a nearly imperfect system to become more optimally perfect. Ndubuisi lands in Lagos. There is no family member I can buy food from or I can eat food from. And the only option Ndubuisi will have is to start knocking at people's door, looking for somebody who has food to sell. But because of information asymmetry, Ndubuisi knows he's hungry. But people who may have food do not know that Ndubuisi is hungry. And we are assuming there is no company called a restaurant. In other words, there is no business that offers any restaurant service. Person has food, he can't see me, and I am hungry, I cannot discover him. At the end of the day, he wastes that food because he can't sell it. Ndubuisi goes home hungry because he can't find food. And then somebody says, this imperfect system, I have the capability of fixing that problem. I'm going to start a restaurant, and that restaurant is Mama Kemi's restaurant. That Mama Kemi's restaurant, being a company, is now established so that the next time Ndubuisi is hungry, Ndubuisi does not need to start knocking at people's door. What does he do? He simply goes to a company called Mama Kemi's restaurant. And when I now go to Mama Kemi's restaurant, she's going to serve and all those nice stuff. At the end of the day, I pay her money. That money I'm paying her is what she will capture as revenue, which is the compensation for fixing the problem that she has faced for me. She has fixed the friction of hunger for Ndubuisi, and Ndubuisi is compensating her through revenue. So revenue is what companies earn for fixing frictions that customers have. This is very, very important, because in Tekedia Capital, what we look for is who are the visionaries that can now see the problems that customers have, that when they now cook that food, whatever that food is, those customers will pay them money in form of revenue. And this is the elemental construct of market system. If you go to banking, it's the same thing. Somebody has money, he doesn't know what to do with that money for it. He said, I'm going to take it to the bank. The bank now has to give that money to somebody who needs that money and then make some more money along the way. If the market system has been perfect, there will not be a need for a bank. If you don't have money, you look for somebody who needs it, you lend it to that person. At the end of the day, the person returns that with interest back to you. But because market systems are imperfect, the information asymmetry makes it nearly impossible for you to discover that person who needs that money and who will return that money as agreed at that agreed time. And that person will also notice that you have that money. So banks now say, bring that your money, I'll pay you 10%. At the end of the year, you get that, your principal back. And then the bank takes that money, gives it to somebody who's running a poultry business in Ibadan. And the person is going to pick that money at 17%. The delta of 7 is the cost the bank has imposed for fixing the friction by bringing the man who has money and the man who needs that money into an equilibrium point where transaction can take place. Do many of those, you are fixing friction and you are being compensated. And as you do that, something must be evident. You need to have what we call capabilities. Capabilities are things that companies must have for them to be in a position to create products and services which these customers have to have. And those capabilities are now encapsulated in 4 cardinal elements: knowledge, entrepreneurial capitalism, capital, and labor. And if you studied economics in secondary school, that's what they call the factors of production. So basically what that means is that you have to have knowledge and something. And you need to be a risk taker. You also need to have factors of production, called capital, to acquire the assets you do not have, and then labor, the people that execute the business model that you need to do. And at the end, you organize them under 3 triple cardinal points of people, processes, and tools. And when you package them together, you begin to run a company. And when you now run that business, you solve frictions, you solve problems that customers have, and those problems now begin to make great things happen. In Africa, we have seen young people who are now combining these factors of production across the people, processes, and tools to now create companies that are having real impacts in their societies. And as they are creating, they are fixing frictions at scale, and now markets are rewarding them even at a bigger level. So you see, many of them are millionaires there in Lagos, and many of them are millionaires there in Cairo, because they are fixing friction and they are doing something amazing. They have understood 4 critical cardinal points. They bring in innovation, they bring connection with customers, they bring inspiration, and they bring this ruthless pragmatism that has made it possible that they can capture massive level of value. So at Tekedia Capital, what we try to do is to make friends with people like these. We want to discover them. We want to understand where they are. And when we now discover them, we support their missions. And when we support their missions, we want to see that mission expand like the baobab tree. And when it expands like the baobab tree, beautiful things happen. we pay so much attention because you may ask me, problems have always existed in Africa. What is really new in this dispensation? I tell you back, something has changed. And what has changed is that this new generation of companies are built on numbers. They are built on numbers. And numbers, when you depend on numbers to run anything, you are going to find success. I take you back to one of the finest moments I had in Federal University of Technology, Owerri. And when Professor Asebu came into the class, a philosophy class, and he said, hey, student, I'm going to teach you logic and philosophy. He gave us a lot of great history about the great debates of the Greek philosophers, how Thales, Heraclitus, Pythagoras postulated the whole essence of the universe. To make it very short, Pythagoras said that the world is nothing but numbers, that everything is numbers. The difference between Flora Wave and Unity Bank in Nigeria is that Flora Wave runs on numbers. Unity Bank in Nigeria may not be running on numbers. The difference between that logistics company, in Lagos, and that big old century luxury bus logistics company is that that logistics company runs on numbers. What do we mean by numbers? It means that if you understand that everything in humanity is nothing but numbers, as the postulation of Pythagoras said, what that means is that the more you build systems, the more you build processes, the more you build stacks that get closer to understanding the numbers around a particular system, the better success you have. And that means we have new generation of companies. They are building on numbers. The numbers, they are what you call data. You like to use the word data. And those numbers are possible because there are new tools that make sense of what the numbers are saying. You have these software tools. You have this mobile internet that basically tells you where everyone is. When you have an IP address on your phone, you are a number. And now you now have kind of property rights, which now makes this possible that if I build a system, if I register this trademark, somebody else cannot just come and steal it. By the time I concatenate that I'm building a system that is based on understanding my customers better, understanding my market better, and building numbers around that process, bringing the tools, driving and improving them, I begin to build a business that makes sense. I am no more doing a guesswork. And that is the reason why the new species of companies are outperforming the old companies, because they are built on the whole postulation that the better they understand their customers, the better they can serve them. And the only way you can understand your customer better is through the data that you are capturing around your customer. Because the more they understand that data, they make use of that data, the more they can fix the frictions that the customers have. You could be solving that customer's problem because you didn't know anything about the customer. You are not run on numbers. You are not looking at the data. You could be so busy, but at the end of the day, you are off. But a company that's built on number has the propensity to understand what a customer needs, and they will deliver it. Just using an example, what PayPal does, which is very, very amazing. You process payment with PayPal, they say 1,000, 1,000, 1,000 over 3 months, 1,000 per month, and then you have a total of 3,000 over 3 months. PayPal says, oh, you are making average of 1,000 every month processing payment. We are going to give you a working capital of $1,000. Anytime you now move it to 2,000, 2,000, 2,000, we'll give you a working capital of 2,000. If you now move it to 10,000, 10,000, we'll give you a working capital of 10,000, up to $1 million. And what PayPal is saying here, you don't even need to ask for a loan because the more transactions you build, we use that data we collect automatically and give you that working capital. You know what is going on there? It's numbers. It doesn't even need you to send any application because the numbers are driving the lending process. And why is that number possible today, unlike in the past? Because of mobile internet, because of the whole construct of computing. the old IBM system, the old Intel microprocessors, they are all converging together with Office and everything in mobile internet. At the end of the day, we have all these cloud computational systems and infrastructure like Microsoft Azure, AWS for Amazon, Alibaba Cloud, Google Cloud. They now make it possible that we can harvest all this data within our stack so that at the end of the day, we can see what we want to see. And when you see what you can see, it means that you understand your market better, you understand your customer better, you understand everything you want to do. In secondary school, in SS1, my teacher was introducing to us physics, Mr. Aham, and I recall when he was trying to bring us into the whole construct of natural philosophy. He said something that before the end of the 18th century, the material component of the universe was studied on an aspect of culture called natural philosophy. Then he came into something that was just very, very amazing. He said that mathematics is the science of numbers. And if mathematics is the science of numbers, and you go back to the postulation of Pythagoras, you can see there is an evolution of something that was really very important in the world. If numbers make up everything we do in life, from medicine to retail to logistics to banking, understanding numbers becomes the business of humanity. So that is the reason why since human history, man and woman, we have been trying how to compute, process, manipulate, and make sense of numbers. From the abacus, slide rule, to difference engine, to ENIAC, UNIAC, von Neumann architecture 1947, Jacobi 1957, Robert Noyce 1957, of the virtual integrated circuits, to the time that Bill Gates now democratized computational system, making it possible that homes and families can own their computers. We have been looking for how to make sense of numbers. The empires of the future are built on these constructs. And companies that are built on numbers are going to win the castle. At Tekedia Capital, our vision is that we can make friends with those innovators that are doing this. And we also use those numbers to look at patterns. Many decades ago in the 1990s, the leading companies in Nigeria, the leading companies we have in Nigeria today, they're actually banks. If you look at the Nigeria Stock Exchange, are the best companies, so just in terms of value created and so many elements, look at these banks, the new generation banks, they remain there. Most of them were started in the 1990s. That was a decade of new generation banks. They came out with new technology stacks, making it possible that they could fix what? Numbers. In the olden time, if you have a bank account in Bank A and you leave Lagos to Kano, you may have accounts in the old Union Bank. The branch in Kano will tell you, no, unfortunately, you cannot withdraw this money in this branch. You have to go back to that Lagos branch where you actually opened that account. They were not working with numbers. But now when Diamond Bank pioneered Diamond integrated banking system, that you put that money in any bank in Lagos, you can withdraw it in any bank in Nigeria, anywhere. You put it in Umuahia, anywhere you can operate it. They are now understanding their customer. So that is really the evolution of the redesign that is happening, and that is cutting across all parts of Africa, from Nigeria to Gabon to Kenya to Ghana, and we are seeing a massive fusion of Cambrian moment that is actually shaping all industries that we have. And now, it used to be static. It's just only in that branch. The era of voice telephony came in 2000, and something changed. They now said, you can actually talk now, MTN, Econet, whatever it was called, Airtel and Glo, they all came that time. And that was that decade of voice telephony. Now, 10 years later, the mobile internet, where our phones now became branches of banks, became internet nodes, the mobile internet era. We are now moving into the 2020s of the application utility era. And that is where this mobile internet, this data economy is going to now be fused, that we can now build systems that will permeate across markets, sectors, market segments, and market categories. And there will be a massive level of transformation that at the end of the day, nothing will be the same. From agriculture to education, real estate, technology, energy, digital, we are going to see a rapid transformation. So the opportunity here for us, Tekedia Capital, say, when this change is happening, we want to be part of those that are driving that change. And that is the motivation, the philosophical construct upon which we started the Tekedia Capital. So application utility era will change everything. You may say, no, you don't feel it. I can tell you, if you pay attention, you feel it. It took Kuda, a microfinance bank with a new business model based on data, to hit 1 million customers. It took it less than three years. When my bank was started in 1947, it took it nearly 60, 70 years or so to get there. So that's the point. Touch and Pay, which we invested, it has about 3 million customers. I recall vividly when I met them in 2019 in Lagos. They were just processing about $10,000 equivalent, which 5 million naira per month. Today, they process billions of naira transactions. In short, if you go to the BRT bus in Lagos, or you use the new railway track in Lagos, this is a company that's powering it. The Cowrie card is tap technology. And when you see that tap, that is actually Touch and Pay. It's doing the same thing in Senegal. It's now gone in Kenya. And what is going on here? You don't anticipate that kind of growth. But it's possible because of the new engines of innovation, which is data which these companies are using. And it has always been in human history. When we move from invention to innovation, great things happen in societies. And this is a very critical point, because we don't just want to invest in businesses that are driven on ideas. We like to see innovation. Because if you go back to human history here, 2,000 years of GDP, which I plotted here, you could see that there was a time when the GDPs of nations were flat. The gross world product was flat. Generations of people that lived apart did not experience any major change in their living standards, because as population was increasing, human per capita income started decelerating. Because if you look at here, more people live here than here, and more people live here than here. And if the GDP was flat, if you divide the total GDP by population, it means that per capita income was dropping. If you studied agricultural science or biology or economics, you must have read about Reverend Marcus, the man that postulated that the food production was going in arithmetic progression while population was going in geometric progression. That was your second year in secondary school. And what he was saying, that man will run out of food one day. But he did not notice that we will move from invention society to innovation society. And that innovation society means that a flattened GDP started rising up exponentially. That this is parabolic. This is no more just flat, linear. That what happened from this invention society to innovation society? It has not happened in Africa, unfortunately. Most part of Europe, Western Europe, and North America, they have experienced this translation. Africa, to a large extent, we are still in an invention society era. So many ideas, talking. Go to Molway Park. People have all the ideas how to provide electricity in Lagos. Just enter any beer parlor in Aba. Men have ideas how to fix light problem in Aba. Give them 10 years, nothing has happened. Because that is one of the characteristics of an invention society. Society where there were so many ideas, but lack of products and services that people can actually buy. It's not new. The foundation of physics, the foundation of chemistry, everything that we do today in chemistry and physics, mathematics, the people who pioneered them, many of them died poor. They lived here. They were brilliant people. When tuberculosis came, it killed them. When polio came, it killed them. But they have produced compounds. They have assembled many constructs in chemistry, but they could not make vaccines. Vaccine is a product. Vaccine is innovation output. Compounds were just nothing but inventions. That translation has to happen. And the good news, I would say, that Africa is at that infancy phase of what we call the innovation society era. We are going to see rapid exponential growth in our GDP. At the wave one, the other parts of the world, they are moving into the wave two, artificial intelligence, augmented autonomous systems, socialized economy, but we are in the wave one. But even in that wave one, beautiful things will happen. And then we are so excited about the promise of the future. The same plot that I just blew it up here for you to see, that there is a magical reason why an economic system that was linear started moving this way. China just recently joined that party. Africa is coming, and it's going to be a massive level of human growth. That's what we do here. We do a lot of historical stuff. We do a lot of data tracking stuff. You go back 100 years, you see the leading companies in America. The steel companies were the leading company in the United States. 1917. By 1967, the largest company in the US was IBM, an infrastructure company. Of course, today, we now have the data companies, the number companies. What is going on here is they are moving towards number and data, because the ultimate stable state of understanding customers and fixing friction in markets is by going to that Pythagoras postulation that the world is nothing but numbers. The steel companies were far, the infrastructure companies were far. Now, these guys are getting closer. Another generation will come, and they can now be when artificial intelligence will take us into the level of singularity. That is going to go towards numbers. If you study mathematics, that's what they call an asymptote, a curve that never gets into a line, even as it tends towards infinity. So that is that asymptotic relationship of numbers, and they are going to become the companies that will power the empires that we are going to experience. In Nigeria, what we have, using Nigeria as a case study, it applies to every part of Africa. These are the leading companies in Nigeria: Nesto, Boa Cement, Boa Dangote Cement. These are the largest companies. You can see that we are still trying to feed ourselves. That's why the food companies seem to be big. We are still dealing with infrastructure businesses, cement, MTN. But the good news is that we are combining that experience of the United States, combining it into a generation. So that means, but America now is largely data-driven on data. That's the largest companies, the number companies. The next wave coming in Nigeria, I'm predicting it very, very soon. The most dominant companies in Nigeria are going to be powered by data. But the problem there is most of them are not Nigerian companies, because all these companies are listed here. Unfortunately, none of them is even registered in Africa as an African company. So that is going to be a massive distortion. That all these companies we're all celebrating, most of them are not even legally Nigerian companies. We come to that, but the point I'm making, that whether they are listed in Delaware or listed in London, 100% of the operations largely are based in Africa. And if we use that postulation, the implication, if we can superimpose into here, is that the future is going to look like this. And we like to invest in companies that will make home in this kind of constructs. Fix market frictions, the things we look into, make societies better. Capture value and be rewarded. That's what drives us here at Tekedia. We try to see how can we fix this friction, and we've gotten so many awards doing this. And I'm just having this moment to say now, this is now what we do. And we have this community, Tekedia Capital. And what we do basically is to say, okay, we bring a lot of people together. We say, these are companies we like. And if you have a minimum of $10,000 or equivalent of it in Naira, join us. And we now invest in them, we coach them, we mentor them, we work with them, and we have got so many of these great companies, and so far, so good. So, gentlemen, ladies, our own confidence is that the empires of the future are going to be built on numbers. And those numbers, of course, that's represented by technology, are going to have redesigning catalytic impact in our economics. From agriculture to education to everything that we do, those companies are going to be extremely great. So that's the presentation. Thank you. So I will now open it up question and answer. You just have to cut it because I think I've spoken so long already. So let me open it up, question and answer. Please, if you have questions, I'm very happy if you can raise up your hand. Thank you so much.
Yes, we have a number of questions in the chat box waiting. I think we should start with that.
Okay. Okay. Let's take one from before we go there. Let's just take somebody to speak. Then why that is going on, I'll just read through the one. If you have questions, just raise your hands up. Then you can now go to the one on chat while we're waiting for the one on chat. You can raise your hands up. Why? We have so many of them here, but I think may also be great. Okay. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, go ahead, Godwin. Please go ahead. Godwin, go ahead. Unmute yourself and ask your question. Thanks.
Okay. Good evening, Prof.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening, everyone. It's so good to be here again. I finished my mini MBA program last year, December. And immediately I saw this notification. I said to myself, it's another opportunity for me to interact with knowledge again. So thank you for this opportunity once again. My question is, there have been news recently in Nigeria that lithium is going to be the new oil, and there is abundance of it that has been discovered in Nigeria, that it has been discovered in Kaduna, it has been discovered in Borno, and that companies are beginning to show interest in wanting to mine lithium. My question is, these informations, are they true? And if they are true, what can Nigeria do differently to harness these resources and then grow our GDP margins? Thank you.
Okay, let me say here that here you see me. I'm not necessarily sophisticated on this mining of things like when Nigeria said they discovered either crude oil, either in a parts of the northern part of the country, I say it doesn't change anything. Whether we discover lithium, whether we discover silica, whether we discover gold or silver, for me, those things are stale. Nigeria needs to discover mines of knowledge. Mines of knowledge means the capacity to come to Godwin and help Godwin discover how his knowledge and skill can actually advance his society. So the most stable and the richest countries in the world is not discovering lithium or whatever that will make them great. So the point is this. If you go back to the small history of Nigeria, if you have maybe 200 people working in a farm, at the end of the day, they produce a total revenue or aggregate impact of $1 million. And you have one person working in crude oil, doing a crude oil business, and he has about maybe 3 people, and they produce $10 million. Because that $10 million just dropped in the bank, has so many people are working to produce that 1 million. But if you look at it, what it takes to have a healthy economy or healthy system, having 100 people producing that 1 million is far better for you than having one person or two giving you that 10 million. So Nigeria a little bit got corrupted, because why will you waste all the efforts in agriculture when just by giving your bank account to an oil company, they will credit your account in Goldman Sachs or JP Morgan Chase Bank in New York or London. So everybody suddenly does not have a job, and then we just wait for another credit to happen in JP Morgan Chase. And then when it happens, politicians will now distribute how they want to distribute it. Then you go to your community, your classmates, they don't have a job, the wife, they don't have a job. There is just nothing happening, crime everywhere. That is what discovering iron and lithium would do. But it's when we now go back to that basics, that 1960s, when Nigeria was called a future nation that was on the path of ascension, where we have some of the finest doctors, some of the finest engineers, that the world was coming to pick us up. That is when we are going to rise. So lithium or whatever, I'm not necessarily so fascinated, because it won't change anything. I will be so happy if somebody tells me They discover how to build a better school in Yobe State so that about literacy rate there is less than 15%. In other words, out of 100 people, only about 85 people out of 100 may not read and write. So, and that is 21st century. And you tell me you go to Umuahia and there is a better way of discovering how people that need help get help. So that is what I'm focusing on. And that is also what we're focusing here in Tekedia Capital. We don't invest in mining because we think while it's a very great call, it does not advance society. It just focuses on such a few people. It makes them better, but that does not really help society at large. Yeah. So I have so many questions that people ask. Let me tell you what Tekedia Capital, because I just glanced through the question. So what we do here is we focus on tech-anchored companies in all sectors. We are technology agnostic. Sorry, we are sector agnostic. It means we can do agriculture, we can do real estate, we can do anything, but it has to be technology focused. So even if we want to go into lithium mining, we have to look at the technology part of lithium mining. Unfortunately, we don't see how technology in that sense helps that. So we invest efforts on when we put money in this company to help them grow. We believe in the supremacy of business model above all things. That at the end of the day, ability to come up with the right business model becomes very catalytic for the success of companies. And that is based on this equation that great companies will always equal to great products from superior execution. You need to have the capacity to execute well, and you need to have great products before you can have a great company. So our syndicate is many early stage. We go to this company when they are really very young. I recall vividly that we got into our past, which is a very big company now, when it was still incorporated. So, and these companies have to operate mainly in Africa, but they could be registered anywhere in the world. So it could be a Russian company, you could be a Ukrainian company, you can be an American company, a British company, provided a majority of your business operation is happening in Africa. And this is based on understanding that Africa has the largest opportunity space, that opportunities can just keep rising. Opportunities are still here. Most of them are still later. What are you going to do in New York City? They've already done everything there. So why are we going to put money in New York City? We don't see a reason for that. But there are so many things you can do in Ogadagu. There are many things you can do in Aba. There are so many things you can do in Zamfara State. So many things you can do in Ghana. So that's why we focus in Africa. And our syndicate is open to any person, anywhere in the world. We have many companies here. We have many investment clubs, group of friends. They say they cannot individually have $10,000. So they now go and mobilize church members, mosque members, many people, some of them 500, 200. At the end of the day, they come together and invest as one company, 10,000. In that case, we cannot take one person. We just ask them to go and register a business. You can go to your local, to your state capital, and they will help you register a business name. So Tekedia will now deal with them, put that business name, so that there will not be an issue where somebody will say, oh, you were registered in the name of my father, your own father was not involved. We say, well, no. So what we say, go and register that company, have a memorandum of understanding that all of you are going to own all this investment together, that Tekedia Capital will deal with that business name. And we have a website, and essentially just trying to run through this because most of the questions report on that. So we have said here, we are looking at areas where we can solve frictions, deal with market problems, and also capture opportunity. We give money, we mentor, we coach, we teach. And then once these startups are ready, we also feed them into global funds. We work with so many global funds that once we have provided that initial fund, if they keep doing well, we help them to get into that. So our fee to join for 4 cycles is about $1,000 or 550,000 naira. And this is actually where you can pay. And we take a 20% carry. And our process is simple. When we start a deal flow, which is starting in the next coming weeks, we post the companies. We do an overview video while we like these companies. We provide their pitch decks, provide their financials. We post them on our website. And then you go there as a member of a syndicate, you study them, look at them. We give you about 2-3 weeks, about 3-4 weeks to go through. Then we now have a demo day. On that demo day, which is also exclusive to our members, those companies will now come with their CEOs, their founders, and their team to make a presentation to our members. And when they now make that presentation, you now determine if you are interested in investing in them or not. If you are not interested in investing in them, there's no issue. So you make that call on the company that you actually would like to invest in. And when you have decided you want to invest in that specific company, we now take it to the next level. You now make that investment, sign necessary documents, and that deal is completed. So we've been doing this, and we have really amazing, great companies. And some of these companies, they just started from nowhere, and we've been able to grow with them. So I think I have answered the bulk of the questions in that chat. So let's go to Obaru, please. Obaru Solomon, go ahead.
Prof, good evening from Nigeria. It's good to have you here once again.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, so my question is this. There is a part of 550,000 Naira, which is for the annual subscription. Then there is a part of $10,000, which is meant for investment purposes. Now, what exchange rate does Tekedia use for that $10,000? You know, we are in Nigeria, and we have up to like people exchange rate.
I get that. Let me just answer it. So we don't use the black market rate.
Okay.
But we don't also use the official rate. So what we do is in a cycle, we can't even give you any exchange rate because things keep changing in Nigeria. So what we do in a cycle, we tell you, okay, the black market is 700, the official rate is 415. Let's come at the middle so that the founder and the company feels good, and you yourself, you also feel good. We never use the black market, and we never use the official rate. So we just figure out how to come at a place where everyone is happy.
So a middle ground.
Yeah, it will come at a middle ground. Everyone agrees on that, and everyone is happy with it.
Oh, thank you.
Great. So let's go to Omar Ahola, please.
Good day.
Good
from
day.
Nigeria.
Welcome.
Thank you very much for your presentation. One thing I picked out there is that virtual has replaced land as a factor of production, and that really stuck on my mind while you were teaching. Thank you for that. I want to ask: is Tekedia Capital targeted at investors or startup innovators? I'm asking because I have an idea, a startup idea. It's in the conceptual phase. I want to engage Tekedia, but it's the mini MBA I am interested in for now. And so my intention is to start in February and do the annual, at the annual mini MBA. I just want to be sure that I am engaging appropriately. And then to also ask the question asked by the previous person, in paying for the mini MBA, for instance, is the policy on exchange rates the same? Because I was told
I think you may be missing something. Tekedia Capital is totally different from Tekedia Mini MBA. Tekedia Mini MBA is the school. So I think that one, the pricing is very clear on, if you go to school.tekedia.com, you can just register starting in February 6th. And I think February 6th, that's when we started. But then on Tekedia Capital, we don't have the exchange rate for that 10,000 minimum. You see, we did things a little bit difficult here, made things a little difficult here, because in the sense that you need to have a minimum of $10,000, because we don't want people to use money for Indomie noodles or for Cerelac or for buying baby food to start investing in startup. So that if that money goes and disappears, you go and start fighting madam, or madam will say, hey, I told you. So we said, let's make it a little very high. And that is the reason why we actually want you to make a decision that if you can afford to pay $1,000 or $550 for 4 cycles, we do 2 cycles in a year. So that $1,000 is actually largely for 2 years. Any person that can do that is in a position where, I don't know why there's so much noise. Anyone that can do that is in a position where, I mean, we've never had any problem. We've never had any failed company. But if any bad thing happens, that person most likely will not be in a position where he's just going to get depressed and cause trouble in his home or her home. So that's why we say the minimum of $10,000. If you have But you can spread that 10,000 into maximum of 2 companies. The exchange rate for that $10,000, we don't know. It's when we are now doing a cycle, we do that. We've done 450, we've done 500, we've done 550. It's during that time that we'll know what that's. We discuss that with the startup and say, okay, we just had a meeting. At the end of the day, the exchange rate is going to be 550. Every person is 550 or 600, or depending on what, because it depends on what the official rate and the black market rate, both of them at that point in time. Then on Tekedia mini MBA, just go and register. It's totally different from this. That one is more of a school. This one is more of an investment. And the exchange rate for Tekedia is actually good. $140, we say 60,000 Naira equivalent, because we don't use the black market rate, because we know that it doesn't make sense in the real sense of it. That one is coming to Tekedia Institute. But in investment, these startups cannot use official rate, and we find a way to stay at the middle. I hope that is very, very clear.
Yes, it is. Thank you very much.
Yeah, in Italian, you can just post the Tekedia so that people that want to learn about Tekedia Institute can do that. So I have a question here on how many companies has Tekedia invested? I mean, we've invested in thousands of companies. And what is a successful? What I would say, we've had companies that have outperformed what we have. Like I just mentioned, Touch and Pay, our Pass, Verify, so many of them. But we've never had any failed company. We've never had any company that went bankrupt. We've never had any company but even maybe we have one company that is struggling a little bit, but because we have enormous impacts in the market, what we have done in that company is to see how we can pivot it. So that company is going through a pivot, and what pivot means, we are redesigning its mission and then anchoring that new mission to provide services to other companies that are already in operation. Just imagine when you have in your portfolio companies that have 3 million users, that thousands or hundreds of thousands of users. Another company can even feed on that. So so that's we are very confident that after the pivot, that this business is going to do very, very amazing, very, very amazing. And let me I received some level of virtual mentorship from I think so. You are asking that you send us your pitch deck. Let me say here, if you send us a pitch deck and you've not heard from our team, I would say have a little bit of patience, and they are actually doing due diligence on you. You may not know that. Like we have a company, somebody reached out today to me. I said, hey, this startup, you've been reaching out. The website has been down for the last 2 days, and he didn't even know. So the person was so surprised. But we've not gotten back to that startup because they are doing due diligence. And once they finish that, they'll get back to you. And so let me just go through this. I love to work this. Okay. While I'm reading that, Lawal, Oluwaseun, go ahead, please. While I'm reading that so that we can optimize. Go ahead while I just go through this.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, so
my question is, do you guys invest in gaming industry, like startups in gaming industry? And
yes.
Like what are the metrics? What do you use to judge, or like how do you judge what is right or if to invest in such gaming industry like companies?
Yeah, so we have not seen any successful gaming company out of Nigeria. Non-successful gaming company has ever been established. So what that means is there is now going to be a high ceiling for a startup to flip us to be the first company that will actually going to make gaming a really good deal. So because no one has done it, the implication is that we have to look at a new business model that team is bringing. You may not even have, users per se, but we want to be sure that you may not have users, but we want to focus on what business model are you bringing that will change the outcome. Since it have been, go ahead.
So does that mean you can invest even if you don't see the traction in those particular like gaming startup?
Yes.
Because I'm asking
I
this
said,
from a personal point of view. I have a gaming
yeah,
startup.
like I said so. Yes, we have said that. I said our past, we gave you the money you used to register the company. It has not even registered. So you may not have even incorporated. If you like, we will give you money to incorporate. But we have to be confident that we believe in that business model because we have tons of data here. So, like I said, we have not seen any company that succeeded in gaming out of Nigeria, out of Africa. I says, let me just say Nigeria, and that means that if you are coming up with the same business model that has failed, likely we are not going to invest. Like we don't invest in e-commerce. Yeah, like in e-commerce, we don't invest in e-commerce because we've not seen any successful e-commerce company. I mean, when you say e-commerce, pure play e-commerce, I'm not talking about hybrid, where you have stores like they do in Copa Global in Kenya.
I understand.
What Copa is perfect. We call it one of the finest e-commerce models in Africa. It's a very great company. We're actually looking for a company like that in Nigeria. Unfortunately, we've not found any. So, but all these other e-commerce, you have a website, we don't believe in it. Not that they cannot be successful. We just don't think they can be profitable easily. And if you look at Jumia, I think it loses $53 million every quarter. In other words, in a year, it loses about $200 million. And that's why it struggles, because that marginal cost inefficiency of last mile, because of lack of postal service, lack of logistics infrastructure, makes it very, very difficult for that company to improve and compound its leverageable factors, which is basically ability to scale and reduce the marginal cost. And when you are scaling a business and your marginal cost is not improving, you cannot be a category king company. Because the more users you have, the more troubles that are coming to you, because you cannot leverage on the original infrastructure that you have. You have to build a new one. So that's why we don't invest in e-commerce. Not that e-commerce is not good, but we don't just see a path how it can be a very sustainable business. Unless there is a postal service, unless there is an infrastructure project. So if you are now in US, we like e-commerce. Because if you publish your book, you can sell it and post office will take care of it. But we don't invest in US companies that are operating in US, unfortunately. So for our gaming business, we focus on the business model. And it has to be something radically new so that we don't end up as those that have failed. So I hope that is very clear. The company that we are having a little problem was we actually felt in our data that that industry was not doing well. But unfortunately, we felt that what they were trying to do was going to work. But after about 18 months, it was working, but you cannot help somebody become a chief. You cannot help you put on a chief secretary title. I don't know the one you want, either a chief secretary title or take one in the north. And then Nigeria and the northern now they have their own. The western Nigeria has so many different classes of titles. So you're going to be fine as a person, but your investors are never going to be fine. So we are now revamping, and the signs are already showing. And we are hoping that in the next 6 months, it is going to be in a position where it can grow to now attract external capital. So that is the way we look at it. So also, in that business model like gaming, we don't like it. Are you going to add what we call the one ORC strategy? And one ORC strategy is a postulation I have written extensively in Harvard. If you go to Harvard and just type one ORC strategy and double play strategy. So in my work in Harvard, I've explained that where you make money may not necessarily be what people know you for. So for instance, the most profitable part of Amazon is not on the e-commerce. The most profitable part of Amazon is actually the Amazon AWS. The most profitable part of Samsung is not in Galaxy, it's actually in Samsung Electronics. So what happens here is that if you don't have that double play strategy on the one oasis, we can't see a path where you can capture value, even if you are struggling the core products, people know you. So if you look at the Indian company, Flipkart is an e-commerce company. It was not really doing very well in India. But they have what they call PhonePe, which is their payment company. All payments done on Flipkart was processed by PhonePe. So they make significant profits on that, their PhonePe, thereby compensating for lack of margin they are making in e-commerce. And that's the reason why Walmart invested about billions of dollars, and the company is worth nearly $30 billion. If you go to Alibaba, a certain part of Alibaba system is actually the Alipay. Alipay, before the Chinese government started clamping down on it, was bigger than Goldman Sachs. It was the 5th largest financial institution in the world on market cap. But Alibaba itself was not making a lot of margin, but Alipay was making tons of money. But all of them, we are fused together that all payments processed in Alibaba has to go to Alipay. So if you're not bringing gaming and we don't see that double play and the one OAS strategy, your gaming may be free, loss making, but it can maybe have a payment system where people will shop, where people will buy ephemeral things, like those days in chemistry experimental based on acid to give effervescence. They buy, they waste it. But if you can stimulate that kind of transaction volume, the gaming may not deliver any profit, but that payment technology that is baked under that gaming can actually be where that value will capture. So we like to see the clarity of your business model and how that is going to be different from those that have tried to win through gaming. In other words, you don't have to win through gaming to be successful in gaming. You can use the one OAS and the double play strategy to do that. So I hope that's very clear. So
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That works out. I have that strategy already. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Let's go to I think Godwin. I don't know if I've spoken with you. Okay, Godwin, go ahead. Sorry, it was Mr. Ebe that we spoke. Godwin, go ahead. We're gonna leave here in the next 13 minutes, gentlemen and ladies. So I don't take us here waiting for your weekend. Go ahead, Godwin. Please go ahead. Okay, if Godwin is not there, let's go to Dr. Francis Moses. Dr. Moses, please. Dr. Moses, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Professor Ndubuisi. I've joined from the beginning. My own is just to applaud you, to thank you for what you are doing. I appreciate everything you have said today was like new to me, even when I have been following all through new revolutions. So keep up the good work. We appreciate you. I'm happy to let you know that you are my brother, even when you keep up the good work.
Thank you.
I was thinking you come home for Christmas. I'll come to your house directly.
No problem. I do come actually.
I do come.
I like of you. We have a very big mansion. I was
at home. I chatted you. I thought you'd be around. Let me come and see you face to face.
No problem. No problem. Next time we come. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. God bless. Yeah. Let's go to Ifeanyi. Ifeanyi, please go ahead, Ifeanyi. Is Ifeanyi there?
Good.
That's great.
Yes. Good, everybody. Thank you very much for the presentation. I have read. I have been to the website and tried to understand what Tekedia is doing. One question I have here is regarding to the investment. Will the investment be locked for a period of time? Or like, let's say that if you invest now, you have to, before you could talk of pulling out or something, it has to be, let's say 1 year, 6 months. Is it going to be locked for the period of time? No.
Yes.
No.
I know. It's not. What happens here is, this is not a public market. So it's not something you just wake up in the morning and say, I want to sell. This is what we call a private placement. In other words, you don't just say, I want to sell, because there's nobody buying. But what we have here is, in as much as we tell you to have a time window of at least 3 to 7 years, have that in mind. We have also had exit companies that we exited in less than 6 months. We have companies that we exited in 1 year. So, but it's not cast on stone, it's not physics. So it's when an opportunity comes, that's when we take care of that opportunity. But don't think that it's something that you go in and you just go out. Because if the startup is not raising money, there is no way you can exit. We don't have to wait for the startup to be acquired for you to be made whole. So let's say, for instance, you get into a startup when it is valued at $1 million. Okay, we have a startup that came to us last 2 years. It came at $1 million. That startup is raising money at $80 million now. Some of our members are thinking they want to cash out. But the problem here is that everyone also is most people believe that this startup can get to 500 million. So interesting, a lot of people that I say, no, I'm not interested in cashing out because the newer investors can just buy everyone out and they be the only one that stays. So we have a startup actually came in November last year at $10 million and raised money just at the beginning of this end of last month at $50 million. So when we posted it, everyone said, no, we are just starting. We just started. So what I'm trying to say here is there will be opportunity for exit, but we do not have that date to say 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. But when they do come, we'll let our members know. Okay. I hope that is fair.
Yeah, I just want to be clear. So the time of exiting does not totally depend on the individual company or an individual investor.
No, it depends on the company. When the company is raising money and that opportunity is available, you can exit. Let's assume that you invested $10,000 and you own 0.1% of the company. The new person that is coming can say, hey, that your investment is worth, let's say, 40,000. They just pay you off. Yeah. I don't know if you get my point. You have to unmute yourself. Sorry, just trying to stop this note where we'll muted everyone.
Okay. What I'm saying is that it does not really depend on the individual because when let's say that somebody wants to exit at a particular point, but that such opportunity is not available at that point, so the person cannot.
Yes, it's not a public market.
Okay. Another thing
where you can just go ahead.
Another thing I wanted to ask is if let's say I invested $10,000 now, which is 500 or I think 5.5 million or something like that, and equivalent in naira at the rate of 550. If I want to exit and I want
everything is paid in dollars. Everything all the investments, everything we do is in dollars, even if you pay the equivalent of it in naira. So this is our policy. If the company that is buying that startup or investing in that startup is paying that startup in dollars, everyone will get it in dollars.
Okay. And based on what I understand from your presentation is that you, Tekedia, kind of oversight on those startups, which monitor their activities and all this. So Tekedia can pull out the investment if the company is messing up or along the way, like what happened to FTS in US. Along the way, you find out that some things are not.
What happened to what? So what happened to which one?
This crypto company in US.
No. Don't think that when you give that startup money, that startup keeps your money in the bank. That is
no, I'm not talking about what I'm talking about. Like if you along the way you discover that some things are not done the way they should be done. Like because some of these startups and all those kind of things, if one law is being changed, it can render the startup useless. It can bankrupt them. It can prevent them from even functioning. Or if they fell foul of the one law they didn't know about and all those kind of things.
So I think we can have another meeting with you to get into this to and fro. But let me just say this: if you go to our website, everything is actually explained. Just take time and read through our website. Once you invest in a startup, they don't keep it in the bank. So there is nothing like you pulling the money out. If you give a startup money, yes or no, and they are going to invest that money. So, but if something bad happens, you're going to assess the best possible way you can become whole. But don't think that you are getting your money back. FTS is a totally different case. We don't invest in a company that let's say that does investment for other companies because we are also a kind of a fund. So let me explain it this way. The problem in FTS is not that it's running to produce shoes or trying to produce a handkerchief that they got into trouble. The problem in FTS is that there was just a fraud. And that fraud is not really because of crypto or because of the business model. It's just like there was just a bad actor. And when that thing happens, it has already destroyed, stolen the money. There's just nothing you can do. And unfortunately, that is part of the risk. So if anybody tells you that anybody can manage 100%, that person is a lie. So you cannot, just like when Finland Bank in Nigeria Oceanic Bank, I can just keep naming them. When somebody CEO can use handkerchief to approve $1 million to a friend, and bad things happen, there's nothing you can do. But what we do, because of that postulation in Pythagoras, the numbers in these startups are more transparent and more clear, in the sense that you can, unlike in the past where you need to travel from Lagos to Kano to see what a startup is doing. In this era, you don't need to travel to Kano to see what a startup is doing, because through their dashboard, through the information that they give you, you can independently assess how they are doing. But that does not make you to start claiming that you can stop all kinds of fraud. I'm just trying to be very, very clear here. Just no human being that can do that. And that is also part of our due diligence. You want to invest in people, you have confidence. Nobody walks into Tekedia and just get money the next day. And I know there are a lot of people that have been chatting here. They have tried to reach us for 2 months, 3 months. There are so many orthogonal things the team will have to do, and just to minimize it. But that does not mean that you can eliminate all kinds of fraud. So FTS is not even a good example. FTS is not a good example because when people are comparing FTS with blanketing the crypto, the blockchain world, FTN is just a pure fraud. Whether he was doing crypto, blockchain, selling yam, selling gare, or selling Bonvita, it's irrelevant. Somebody gave you money and you just diverted that money. It has nothing to do with that. It can happen in banking. I think there was just one that happened in Jamaica the other day. Usain Bolt put his $12 million in a bank in Jamaica. He checked it last week. He realized it only remained, was it $2,000? I think, gentlemen and ladies, I'm not the only one that saw that news, right? Did you read it? Did anyone read that? The Usain Bolt case?
Yes, I saw it. $12 million.
Yeah, he just checked 12, he put 12 million, it now remained $2,000 or $4,000. So somebody who just cleared the whole thing and left the bank.
Yeah. Thank you very much for the answer.
That's a data fraud.
I wanted to ascertain is that FTS, the Tekedia have the option of, if they found out something along the line that is not right, and they have option to at least let me say cut their cost in terms of
yes, absolutely. Now you do that. There is no need of asking that. You're going to see how you go, so that's the reason why we actually invest in technology anchored companies. We want to have an intellectual property that we can recover. So let me say this: we give you $200,000 or $500,000. You go and build an API. That API we think is revolutionary, and along the way the person messes up. During that recovery, we're going to ask you to give us a copy of that API. If we have a copy of that API, through our internal processes, we can work with another company to buy that API or use that API to do that thing that you could not do. So that's the reason why we don't give money to trading companies. Because if they fail, there's nothing we can lay down on. That IP, we quantify the value of the API or the intellectual property or tech.
Yes.
Quantify how much we can give you. When we say that this IP is worth $500,000, Tekedia will not like to give you more than $500,000. Because if bad things happen, there is no way we can recover. So in short, in the last cycle, I think we wrote to our members, hey, we have closed a cap, we've closed a raise for a startup, because we don't want to have too much level of exposure in cases like that. So that's the way you manage it. IP, the technology that powers most of these startups may even be more than the money you're giving. And under bankruptcy law, you have access to some of these technologies, and they can use them to repute whatever that you need, and you could make your team home. So let me get to here. After paying the subscription fee, how much more minimum is expected to be? Like we said, that joining the membership just $550 for 4 cycles, which can last for 2 years. And when you are investing, you need to have a minimum of $10,000 to put in a maximum of 2 companies. You can have many of your friends contribute for that $10,000. But if it's more than a husband and a wife, if you are bringing a friend that is not husband and wife, we require you guys to come as a company. So you cannot say this is my best friend. Two of you want to bring 5,000 to do 10,000. We don't allow it because the Tekedia Capital is actually a U.S. entity. We're incorporated in U.S. We don't have a scenario where if you put your name and the other family, because we're looking at this thing to be generation shaping. I mean, people invested in First Bank more than a century. We don't know how this company will turn out. So we don't want a case where I'm using my friend's name representing him. All of a sudden, the other family cannot have access to that. So we don't want that. So we say both of you should go and register a company, and then two of you will now invest through that company. So yeah, so but minimum of 10,000. We don't want people that cannot afford to take risk on this to be investing through us. We know there are people that will allow you to invest $100, $200. No, that's why our barrier of entry is very, very high, because we don't want somebody to take money for Indomie noodles or Cerelac to be invested in startup. These things are very risky. We're not just trying to say it in any other way, very risky. But however, by true effort that we are putting, the protocols that we are putting, we've never had any problem. But that does not mean that, I mean, we're hoping that we don't have any problem, but we don't want to make it look like it's risky. And that's it. So, so what is the expected duration before return is expected? Like I said, we have a startup that came November at 10, and now it raised money at 50 million. It's really great. We got in at the right, very, very, sure, we even got in very late. The issue here is that if you want to go out, we put it out in the board. A lot of people say no. If you truly want to get out and the opportunities are available, you can. But I would say here, this is not a business when you get in and within three months you are thinking of getting out. You have to be thinking a minimum of 3 years on average, even though it could be earlier. Okay. So the membership fee gives you access to first deal flows. So you have access to, we have a deal flow about 5 to 7 companies. So that means that you have average of at least minimum of 20 companies presented over 2 years. So we do 2 cycles in a year, typically 2 cycles in a year. So you are looking at 2 years for that. So that's what that's, but after, if you don't want to renew that membership, of course, you continue to receive information about investment. The only thing is that you will not have opportunity of seeing new investments that are coming. And so the question on what Tekedia looks for, please go to the website. We have a video on what we look for. Just Elvis, go there and check it and see what it. Okay, let's go to Elvis. Okay, Elvis, I think I've just answered your question on the board. Let's go to Ken. Ken, go ahead, please. Ken.
Mine is not a question. I just want to, maybe you've emphasized so much on the risk, and so that people exactly know what they're getting into. That this is not a public stock market where you go in and out, and you can lose all your money, you can lose everything. So people should be aware of the risk involved in this investments, and also understand that these are startups and things can go wrong. Rules, laws can change, can affect them, and as in things can go bad drastically. But what we do here, as you have explained, is to make sure that we minimize those risks while we try to grow those businesses. So I think people need to understand that, and they need to understand what those 10,000 means and how they work, because there is some confusion as the kind of questions you hear people put there. You kind of feel like, oh, maybe they don't really understand what this is, they don't really understand
Absolutely.
how they work and all of that.
Absolutely, and that is the reason why. I mean, just to, I know he did not note here, Ken is actually one of our big members. He's invested lots, and he's one of our biggest members in the syndicate. So happy that he is here. And he actually runs a fund, not just investing in his personal capacity, he runs a fund. And that fund they also invest through us, they like what we do, they invest. I know that he also invests directly in our startup. So this is not to say, guys, that you take money that you have to buy Cerelac. I like to use that for your baby, and you want to use it to now grow. No, this is risky. And we just try to say it in any way we can. And that's also the reason why we want you to pay that 1,000. You don't go and pay 1,000 in what you don't understand. So I think we should be the only one or few, or maybe among the doing that. There's so many websites, you don't even need to pay any money. You just send them $100, $200. We don't do that. So please take time and know what you're getting into, and make sure you understand that. This should be the last one, then because we just have time here. Let's go to Paul, please. Paul, go ahead. Paul, KJ, go ahead, please. Okay, Paul is not there. Let's go to Maurice, please. Maurice, go ahead so that we can round up. We're already above time.
Okay, good evening, everyone. This is Maurice. Connecting from Abuja. I joined a bit late, but if you would indulge me to ask, if somebody wants to invest, are you doing a portfolio of fund, or the person must identify one of the startups, the company that the investment will be channeled into? I'm asking this because I've been hearing about risk, and I'm thinking about how do you use diversification to lower the risk? If I put, let's say, $10,000, that is the minimum, are you going to put it just in one company, or?
No, I think we explained it that you have to invest a minimum of 10,000 in a cycle, and you can spread it into maximum of 2. There are companies that invest $200,000, $300,000. So what they do, typically most of our members say, okay, there are 5 companies here. One person will just allocate or say, I can have $100,000. I want to put 20,000 in each. There are some, they have 30,000. They say, okay, I want to put 5,000, and then 10,000. So you are the one that will allocate how you want to minimize and risk and drive your exposure. But you have to do a minimum of 5K and 10K in a cycle. So if you have 11,000, you can put 6,000 in one and 5,000. If you have 30,000, you can decide to spread 5,000 in each. I don't know if that is very clear. But Tekedia itself is, what we try to do here is to do the best we can to present companies that we think have chance to do well. And there are so many things we look for. And where we don't understand, we ask our members, what do you think about this? But now it's now left for you to know whether that 10,000 goes to one company or goes to 2 companies. Or if you now have 50, you can even invest in all of them.
Prof, do you kind of provide a kind of ranking, since you are on the other side of the back end? Is there
we have an overview video where we explain what we like about this startup. We have an overview video where each startup we actually explain what we like, what we also think could be an issue, and where they stand. So we do that.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Paul, so that we round up, please. Go ahead.
Yeah. Good evening, Prof. Good evening, everyone. Yeah. Please, my question is about the exit options. Yeah, I want to find out, does it mean that when I invest, I don't get to get anything till the company exits in the market, or if there's another financial that comes to buy it off, that's when I get anything. Maybe it takes 4 years, 5 years to get anything. It's unlike the actual companies, that gets dividend yearly. It's not that how it runs here.
No. This is a private company. That's not like, don't expect that these companies are going to have profit to pay dividend. No, that's it. So you wait, and that is also a reason why you have to ask yourself, do you want to go to a public market where you can buy today and sell tomorrow, or do you want to go into a startup? These startups are getting your money so that they can invest and build whatever they want to build. So they don't even have fund to come and pay you back. But the difference is that why you can invest in the Nigeria Stock Exchange and you get a 5% return at the end of the year, or maybe 10%. You can put $10,000 in a startup, and in less than 3 years, that 10,000 can turn into $500,000. Let me give an example. I think I've written about it. The Kuda guys came to me. They wanted me to invest $100,000 at valuation of $3.2 million. I asked them, guys, how are you guys going to make money? They say everything is free. Everything is free. Everything is free. I say, guys, I'm not going to. I mean, I didn't tell them that. I don't know, we did not invest. If I put out $100,000 in CUDA, that 100,000 would have, because see, you know what? Let's run the math. At in less than 18 months, CUDA raised money at $500 million. But what they wanted, the valuation they came was to me at 2.5 million. Multiply 200 by 100. That means that 100,000 before dilution would have generated $20 million. I mean, but if you now dilute it, there is no way that $100,000, if we are going ahead to give them, will not have generated at least $2 million in 18 months. So there is just no comparison. So in other words, the people that gave CUDA 10,000 at the early phase it started, they may even have a better multiple because the company may be worth 500,000 that time. In other words, if you're giving them 10,000, and you may end up getting at least that 10,000 would have given you $1 million in 18 months. So when we are talking about, we don't compare it to the public market. Am I getting dividends? Maybe they pay you 274,000 naira a month. No, there's nothing like that. But if it works, it can make you whole, and you just go home and retire. I'm telling you. But it's also risky. That money can also disappear. So, gentlemen and ladies, let's not abuse this privilege and the honor.
I do have a question, please.
Okay, go ahead, please. Just last one, please. So that we can close.
Please.
And of course, gentlemen, this video is recorded. And if you go to the same place where you pick this thing on Tekedia.com, go to Tekedia.com. The video is there so that you can take time to watch through it if you want to do that. Go ahead, please. So that we just close it.
Prof, my question is, I hope I'm getting you right, though I was part of the seat ticket from last session. What I want to find out is, because I was a bit confused, is if I invest $10,000, from what I'm getting from you now, is it the $10,000 is going to be split into different companies? Because from my own perception before, it's like the $10,000 has to go to a particular company, but it's like what I'm getting.
Yeah, 10,000 has to go to maximum of 2 companies. You just tell us the 2 companies. Yeah, maximum of 2 companies. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Well, I wish to congratulate you. So keep on doing the good
work.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. So, gentlemen and ladies, we hope that I hope that we did not waste your time. So please, there is the video link on this section. But if you go to Tekedia.com, you can also access it. And we're very honored that we have shared this afternoon with you. And please, if you have any question, just go to our website at capital.tekedia.com. And of course, we have a contact here. Just reach out to Namdi's WhatsApp here if you want to speak to somebody in Nigeria. Itayo is also here. Itayo has also been sending updates. So I will leave this thing open for a couple of minutes in case Itayo, you can drop your WhatsApp also in case somebody wants to speak with you, or Namdi, you cannot drop it. So thank you so much. We hope to welcome you. What we are doing at Tekedia is to actually do what everyone wants to do. How do we support the innovators in our communities so that this wealth, in as much as the Americans are investing and Europeans are investing, we can also invest from home so that the value is being multiplied. We can also capture a significant part of it. So thank you so much for joining us, and stay blessed. Good afternoon and good evening, depending on where you are. Thank you. Bye-bye.
You're welcome. Well done. Thank you.
Well done. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you. We appreciate you.
Well done.
Thank you very much for the